So the question today is accidental or intentional? Accidental or intentional? Does life happen to you, or do you happen to your life? That's the basic question. And the answer to that question, it's okay to be working on it, but your answer to that question is going to determine your whole experience, how successful you are, how happy you are, how able to accept love, and how able to love other people. The whole enchilada, spiritually speaking, is present in the answer to the question, accidental versus intentional. I'm here to vote for intentional. But I want to be very careful about that. I am not talking about having a plan. I don't need you to have a plan. How many times has someone sat down, sometimes a dad, what's your plan? Where are you going to be in 5 years? What's your idea for this? I'm not that kind of dad. It's not that kind of message. It's not that kind of life. Because when I hear plan, I think of ego, of hubris, of the idea that somehow I'm going to predict not just the future, but who I'm going to be in the future and what's going to be important to me. And I got to tell you, my friends, that has never worked out very well for me. I'm not interested in plans. I had a plan. When I was very, very young, I knew that I wanted to be a dad. I knew it. It was important to me. Really important. So important that, look, I grew up in the 70s. This was a different time. Along with my G.I. Joe figures and Star Wars figures, I had a doll. I had a baby doll. I wanted to be a dad. It was so important to me. And I had a plan for how that was going to work. I had a plan for how that was going to go. And I met the woman that I love, and I knew in that moment that I loved her, and I knew that my plan was meaningless. Because what does that? The way that it was supposed to go was not the way that it went. And I've told you part of this story before, but before too long, that woman that I loved told me I was going to be a dad, and that was not part of the plan. Not then. Not according to my idea of how the future was going to go. I had very specific concepts about when this was going to happen, and the whole white picket fence thing, and the whole thing, and I was going to have this amount of money, and here's how it was going to work, and that was baloney. I didn't use the word baloney. And you know, we've all seen those movies where the guy finds out he's going to be a dad and he's a real jerk about it. Well, it means I can't go have beers with the boys or whatever. That wasn't me. I've never been that kind of guy. I was in denial. I told the woman who is now my wife when she said I was going to be a dad, let's not affirm that. But it's not because I wanted to have some kind of a stallion's got to run free kind of life, because that's not the thing. It was because to me, the idea of being a dad was so much bigger than I could ever live up to. I wasn't ready. Not because I was afraid of it, but because I was so in love with it that it just seemed like, no way, I'm not the guy for that. Not now. I got to take a class or something. My plans fell apart. And all I was left with was intention. And all I have now is I intend to be the best I can be. I'm going to mess up, but I'm going to grow. I intend to listen with a loving heart as much as I can. I intend to do certain things. And it goes all kinds of different ways. And usually those ways are when things are at their best instead of when I'm trying to control things. Let me put that a different way. This is the dad secret. Are you ready? I can tell you I've been a dad for a long time now. We don't know anything. And we laugh because that is no secret at all. I mean, everybody knows that dad does not know what's going on. It's almost every commercial. Dad, use peanut butter instead of floor wax. Come on. It's every commercial. Would someone please go rescue dad before he blows the house up? There's every commercial, right? I get it. And it just so happens that there's an element of truth in that stereotype, and I will own up to it. But the reason is because, I find anyway, the reason is because we get to a place, if we're good dads, we get to a place where it's okay that we don't know how it's going to go. But we can just be pure about the intention. And when I'm being a good dad, it's when I lean into what I intend. When I lead with that heart place, things tend to work out. But that's not unique to fatherhood. It's something that everybody can experience in one way or another. A good band is one that's intentional. The Rolling Stones are not the Rolling Stones because they're particularly great at singing and playing instruments. Mick Jagger is not Pavarotti. Thank God, that would be weird. But it's because of intentionality. It's because when they're there, they're there. In fashion, someone can dress in a way that's completely foreign to what you would expect, but if they look like they meant it and they took care, they look good. Intention is what does it, more than fulfilling any particular set of rules. It's something that we have in common no matter what our experience is. In fact, we have a lot in common, don't we? I mean, we talk about it all the time. We talk about how everybody's welcome. We believe on a fundamental spiritual level that we're all part of the same thing. We share the same Creator. We share the same experience. Yes, we're on different parts of the journey and all of that, but we came from the same place, headed to the same place. We're all walking each other home, as Randolph says. It's that thing. We're all part of the same thing. Our culture is based on it. Even if you don't really have 100% lock on believing it all the time when someone cuts you off in traffic, when you're watching the news, or whatever, you know it's true. It's what we teach, it's what we believe, it's what we know. And when we're doing it right, we come from that place of us all being part of the same thing. We are all equal in that. Very, very fundamentally important. But I think a lot of times when people think about that kind of sharing, they think about the unpleasant part. That is to say, that person who I really dislike, I'm so spiritual because I know that we're part of the same thing. And I'm so great. And that's wonderful. But let me also point out that if you really believe that we are all part of this, that we are all brothers and sisters and siblings in this journey, here's the thing it also means. It also means that every hero you ever had, anybody you ever looked up to, any successful business person or incredible artist or spiritual leader or anything good, any hero you ever had, you have that in you too. And I need you to know that. There is nothing different about you and any hero you ever had. You have what it takes. And in fact, you're good at this already. Now, I recognize that that's a lot. And I'm not expecting anyone to just take a giant leap into healthy self-esteem at all times. I get it. I'm on that journey too. So maybe it's not enough just to say, you know what, I'm the same thing as fill in the blank. I get it. So let me say this. It's one of the things suggested in that big magic book. Act like your inspiration, that drive that you have, that thing that you're shooting for, your relationship with the Creator, however you want to look at it, act like your inspiration is alive, like it is a being with feelings and thoughts and everything else. Pretend like that for just a moment and make time to welcome your inspiration. Are you hospitable? Do you have room? Can you say, here, inspiration, come and hang out with me. I'm open to whatever you have to say. I want to make it comfortable. I have chips. Are you taking your time to make room, to be a hospitable presence for your inspiration? Because I've had experiences where I spend a lot of time talking about how hard it is to do something creative, how hard it is to be a part of my life. I'm not just talking about painting a painting or writing a poem. I'm just talking about being a successful participant in my life. When I have those moments when I think about how hard it is, I'm kind of bumming my inspiration out. Well, geez, if you don't want me around, I will go. And that's what happens. Can you be a welcoming presence to your potentiality, to your inspiration? Can you work on that? Because no matter what the particular areas of manifestation are, whatever it is that you're working on, it's something that we can all do to grow. And we are all working on something. Like I said, not everybody's painting a painting. Not everybody's composing a sonnet. Not everybody's baking a cake. Not everybody's doing those same things, but each and every person. Because it is part of who we are. It is one of the gifts that we are given as children of God. Each of us is born with incredible potential, and awesome freedom, and a deep yearning. Those three things together will make you grow. Everyone has a yearning for something. Sometimes it's just, I wish I knew what I wanted to know. That's okay too. Everyone has a desire for something, for some kind of healing, for some kind of breakthrough, for something to be okay or whatever it is. We've all got that. It's what we have in common. So something to think about is, who put that there? while you're working on your self-esteem journey, think about the fact that you've got something in your heart that is proof of greatness. It's important to understand and really get good about, where does that motivation come from? Does it come from inside or does it come from outside? Because I'm here to tell you that for a long chunk of my life, I really thought that it came from outside of me. I spent a lot of time trying to make sure that other people thought what I was doing was okay. I've been a minister for most of my life, so I spent a lot of time going, boy, I sure hope there's a lot of people in them seats. I sure hope everybody gets it. I sure hope everybody claps. Can you imagine Jesus saying that? What's the attendance look like out there, Peter? Yeah. I spent a lot of time trying to make sure that it was okay with other people. Trying to make it okay. Trying to satisfy gatekeepers, you know? And a lot of the things that I felt frustrated about my plans not working out had to do with, you know what, there's not enough money for this right now. It's not the right time. Not enough people approve of that. And here's what I've learned over many years. I encourage you to do it the short way. Here's what I have learned. That is all a trick. It's all the way to keep yourself small so you don't have to deal with the big questions. Let me put it another way. There's never enough money. There's never enough money. You know, you save up for this thing to happen. Wouldn't it be nice to have a couple more dollars than that? Wouldn't it be nice to have a couple more dollars than that? It goes on forever. You're trying to get people to approve of this thing that you're trying to do. Wouldn't it be nice to get a couple of more okays from people? Or a couple of more? It never ends. There's never enough approval. There's never enough money. It's never the right time, except it's always the right time. Look, your job, my job, our job, is to figure out whatever it is that it's in our heart to do. Take some time for that. Big or small, doesn't matter. And recognize that there is some version of that you can do right now without anybody's approval, without any more money or any more time or any more anything. Do that version. Follow where it leads. That's the whole deal. That's how all of this works. Because you deserve it already. Because you're doing it already. Because of who you are already. There's never enough time. History is full of people who just decided, you know what, I'm just going to do this thing. Every hero, every successful person just did the thing and didn't make such a big deal about it, as she says in the book. Let me put that a little bit differently. There's a book called Lessons in Truth, and it changed my life, and I highly recommend it. And in the book, the author says, you ready for this? The author says, desire in the heart for anything is God's sure promise sent beforehand. It is the thing itself in its incipiency. That's a lot, so I'll say it again. Desire in the heart for anything is God's sure promise sent beforehand. It is the thing itself in its incipiency. In other words, when you get really in touch with that thing that you have in your heart, you've already done the hard part. All you've got to do is agree with it. Put another way, you're already doing this. Like I said before, you're already good at this. It's almost a silly thing to say, well, I'm a creative person. Well, of course you are. Everybody is. You're creating. Some people just create problems. But you create. The question is not, can I get there? The question is, what am I going to be intentional about creating? You're good at this. You have the same thing that every hero you ever heard about has in them. When you think about the stories that people tell every day, well, I got to work except I was late and I didn't get a chance to get the coffee I wanted because the guy messed up my order, and then I went there and then I had a meeting, but that meeting really could have been an email, but then I had to go to this other place. Is that really different than, I don't know, Frodo saying, my uncle left me this weird ring and it turns out I got to go throw it away. So this guy told me I had to go over here and I went to the bar and he wasn't at the bar and then I had to go to Rivendell and I got stabbed. That's only like 20 minutes into the movie, guys. Your story is the same as every hero's story if you look at it right. You are already good at this. I know that sometimes adults aren't as in touch with that. It's kind of a kid thing. I may have told some of you that my wife and I decided to unschool our kids. Some people know about unschooling. It's kind of a big deal. It's a way to educate. And the basic idea is this. It's very complicated. Find out what your kid is into and make it educational. You want to become an Imagineer, the people at Disney that do the roller coasters? Well, let's go to Disney a lot. And a roller coaster becomes a physics lesson very quickly, for example. There's economics all over the place at Disney, for example. You want to explore music? Well, let's learn about jazz. There's math in there, and there's love in there, and there's art in there, and there's life in there. And we never cared about their grades, and we never cared about anything else. And what happened was, they were good at it. I'm going to brag on you. My daughter started college when she was 13. My son started when he was 15. And we never cared about their grades, but they got great grades because we got out of the way of that. But I think that the beautiful thing is that they didn't stop learning when they got a cap and gown, because it wasn't a box that you check and now you're profitable. The idea was that there's something beautiful about continuing to learn, continuing to grow, letting your curiosity be your guide. And by the way, that's important. When I said be intentional but not have a plan, sometimes it's hard to know what the heck the old man's talking about. So let me be clear. The difference between having a plan and having an intention is this. Does your ego lead the way, or does your curiosity lead the way? If it's about your ego, that's a plan, and it will probably not work out like you think. If your curiosity leads the way, and you can say, wow, this speaks to my heart, I'm going here. And then, well, not so much, I'm going over here. You can be nimble like that. If you can let your curiosity be your guide like that, if you can let your heart be your guide like that, you can do anything. You'll be happy doing it. Yes, I recognize that that takes some courage. I recognize that that takes throwing some things away. I recognize that it may not always be profitable. Do you care? Would you rather be happy or have money? Frankly, history is full of people following their heart and making a success of it in financial ways too, but that happens when you stop worrying about it. Just like that great quote that Susan shared a little while ago. I love that so much. We had art 40,000 years ago. We had agriculture 10,000 years ago. You want to be true to your nature? Get in touch with that. Do most people spend most of their time thinking about what creative, beautiful thing they can put into the universe? Or do they think about cash? Now, I know, I got bills to pay too. I understand that Maslow's hierarchy of needs that you learned about in high school is very important. Food and shelter and all of that kind of stuff. But you know as well as I do, the moment that you find something that speaks to your heart, when you fall in love, when you hear your favorite song, when you get news that you're going to be a grandpa, when something happens like that, you don't care. That pyramid of values goes out the window. It crumbles to the ground. When you love somebody, you'll stand out in the rain, man. It's a song. The fact that we write songs about that is something. Decide to be that kind of person. Look, in a world that tells us that the only value we have is what's marketable, our ability to consume, following your heart and doing what speaks to you is the most subversive, revolutionary act that you can do. You want to change the world? That's how to change the world. And you have that in you to do. That's where this starts. I'll say it again. There is some version of that desire you have in your heart that you can do today. Maybe it's not a big deal, but it's okay. Do that thing and follow where it leads. Look, like I said, I don't know your relationship with your biological dads. I don't. I don't know your relationship with people that have fulfilled a father role in your life. Maybe there's some healing to do there. If you want to, please know that I'm here for you about that. I've got a lot of opinions about dad stuff. But what I do want you to know is that I see you for what it's worth. And for what it's worth, I know that you have what it takes. For what it's worth, I know what you're made of. For what it's worth, I know that you got this. Your job as a child of the universe is to find what speaks to your heart. Everything else can be set aside just for today. You can celebrate Father's Day for me by doing that. Find something bigger than you. Follow where it leads. And I promise you'll be happy. I promise you'll be healthy. I promise you'll be successful. And I promise you'll be free. Because after all, freedom is a choice.